Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I will show you how to do this kind of element comping shots using the 2D elements. This is going to be really fun and I'm going to use some simple techniques to show this kind of work. Using these techniques you can work with any kind of blood shots like stabbing shots or the sword shots or the multiple gun shots, but the technique will be almost same. So before any delay, let's get into it. I'll bring in the footage into the Nuke. I have the EXR file. I'll turn on the auto alpha and let's set the project first. Press S in the node graph. We'll get these project settings. I'll use only the 105 frames because if I check the plate, we have the watermark after that. So we'll use only 105 frames. And the FPS will be 24 and the resolution will be 2K. And color space, I'll keep it on OCIO and 1.0.3. And the viewing LUT will be the sRGB ACS. So anytime you have this kind of shot, do not directly go to comp it, just take a 2 to 5 minutes and analyze the footage first. In our shot, the first hit is around frame 42. In the second gunshot is around 54. So we'll work on the frame 41st. This is the first shot. Before I start comping, I would like to mention one really important point while doing this kind of shots. No matter how good the blood element you use or how well you composite them, if the acting doesn't match the moment, like the timing of the trigger pull and the headshot reaction, then the shot won't feel like very natural or impactful. So sometimes you even have to do the retiming, or like you need to make the footage to sit with everything or sync well with the shot. So keep that in mind and go with the shot. So in this case, acting looks good, the trigger pull and the acting, everything is syncing well, so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll directly start the shot. Okay, so we have the footage. We already know which frame we need to start the blood work, maybe around frame 40 or 41. I'll bring in the blood element that I have. So I have this blood element. Let's play it and check the blood element first. So whenever you do this kind of shots, choosing the right element is really important thing. Like if the element is not the correct angle, like in this shot, I want my blood element that should, like, let me show you. For example, if my blood element is sideways, then it won't look better. Let's say my element has this initial point and the blood sprays like sideways, then it won't look good. In this case, we want the blood element that sprays like this, like towards the camera, and choosing the right element is really important thing. So if I merge my blood element here on my footage, and if I go to the frame 1, you can see the element is like spraying towards the camera, which will match the action of the character. First thing, the scale is not, the resolution is not correct. The element is HD and the footage is 2K, so we'll add reformat after the element. We make it 2K, and if the element is like slicing in the edges, make it to height so it will fit to the frame. So the next thing is you need to match the timing of the element. So you need to bring that element to the frame that you want. Like in this case, element starts at first frame, which we don't want, and we need to bring it on frame 40 or 39. So I'll use a time offset and go to this frame, use the time offset node and just use the frame 40 and then play with the numbers. So I'll just keep it like this and I'll use a transform node, or you can just use this time offset before the reformat, which would be fine. And I'll use a transform node to bring this element around his head, just for the, like, you can understand better. And since we see this bounding box, I'll just double click the merge node and use the P and play the shot and check. The element angle looks correct, the motion is good, but the element looks very slow, so we need to retime it. So I'll use a retime node before the time offset and just double check and check the frame. Our element has 68 frames, so we need to keep the same framing, and then I will make it 2. So the speed is 2x now, and I will keep it on none. So if I take a look at the element, it will move faster than previous, which is correct for the shot. The impact is better with this kind of speed. I will just merge it with the shot and let's check. Now since we changed the retime and the timing is changed, we need to adjust the time offset once again. I'll go to the merge node and go to the impact frame and just play with the frame. So this frame the element should start. I'll just move it. I'll make it this, so something like that. So now we fix the timing and the speed of the element. Now we need to match the motion. So I'll double click the transform node, go to the frame 40. I'll give a key, scale, rotation and the transform. And around this frame, I'll just keep this here. And if you don't see the element correctly just for the animation, just make it brighter so you will get more idea. I will just also make it red so I can see the blood element better. Just for the visibility, we'll keep that grid, and later we can fix the grading. And go to the frame 42 and I'll just make it like this. I'll simply give a little bit of motion to that element, and I'll just check it only on these frames. If that looks good, I'll keep it, or maybe play with the scale. Okay, this looks good, but on the first frame, I'll keep the scale like this. On second, like 42 frame, I'll make it a little bigger all of a sudden. And keep the same values on rest of the frames, like I'll delete this key here. Also on this key. And this one, like don't get confused, I'll just do it one more time. Let's remove this transform node, take a transform, go to the frame 41. I'll bring this center point here and I'll keep this like this. Set your frame like on 41st frame. I'll just give key to the transform and I'll make it a little smaller on this frame. On 42 frame, I'll just make it bigger all of a sudden, so element will look more bigger and towards the camera. And like on 43rd frame, I'll bring it slightly down here, and likewise I'll just go further frames and bring it little down, and then furthermore, and then it will go out of the camera because that element has its own animation, which those drops will just go off out of the camera, like if I check this frame. And if I check the element won't stay there, it will fall down, so that will also help to bring more natural effect. And with the transform, we can bring it more down like quickly, and also bring it somewhere around here. And on this frame, the element will go a bit more down. Likewise, you can play with the motion, and I'll keep it like this and play. Okay, that looks pretty good. The first impact looks good. We have the chunks and the motion is correct. Now the second thing is we need to add some like motion to the element, like it looks very steppy. So what I will do is I'll just remove this crate, or just keep it for now, and I'll use a vector blur node, SX, and use the old vector blur, or you can use the new one, but I'll prefer using old one. And like around this frame, I'll keep it as is. Before using the vector blur, I have one more method I will show you. I'll just keep it off for now, and we'll use that too for some other chunks. But before that, I'll use a god rays node for the first 2 frames. So the god rays comes here and the center point goes on the initial point of the element. And I'll go to this frame first and use the scale values, and just animate the scale in the center. So I'll keep the scale like this, so we'll get some motion blur effect like this. And on 42 frame, where the impact is like just next to the gunshot, I'll make it a little more. And on 43rd frame, I'll bring the center point here, so the element will look like it's coming towards the camera. And then on next frame, I'll just keep the value 1, so this god rays won't be like it's not affecting the blood element anymore. And then after that, I'll turn on the vector blur and I'll keep it as is here. And on 45th frame I'll start adding some motion blur, like vertical blur. So I'll play with the V values. I'll make it like this and animate them. I'll make it 15, so you see them little blurry like motion blur, and we'll keep it like that. So adding motion blur will make your element like it won't look steppy if you use this. And also we have a little defocus, so add a defocus node, slightly defocus to match the camera lensing effect. And then here we go. So we have a nice blood impact. Next thing, we need to match the color. So we just added this grade for the visibility or the viewing purpose. I'll just delete this, and I'll do one thing. I'll add the grade before this reformat. I'll use unprimmled and primmled, and use a grade node just before within those unprimmled and primmled. And around this frame, the blood looks too dark. First, we'll match the black levels. So matching black levels is a bit different in CG and in 2D elements because the blood should look very contrasted, otherwise it won't look like blood. So I'll keep it more darker, not exactly, I won't match the black levels as the character. I'll just keep it a little dark. And I'll also use the black levels of this. So if I use the black levels of the character, it looks too flat. I'll just play with the values, the mix values. I'll keep it like this so you can see the difference. So we have the black level match, but it's too less just for the visibility. I'll keep it more dark. I'll use one more grade node and make the blood element bit reddish and little more brighter. And if I play it, so the element looks good, everything is fine, but we are not reading the element properly. So we need to do one more thing to make it read more better. For that, I will use a noise node to add some reflections or make them like the blood is wet and make them specky. So use a noise node, and I'll simply add it before the transform. Or also you can add it here because noise shouldn't match it. Like every frame the noise should be different because the spec levels changes on the motion of the blood element and the shape of it. So I'll use a noise node here on it, and since our noise is like this, I'll make the noise very small like this, and also play with the gamma so we get this kind of small specks. And now if I take a look, our blood element is the spec is overall. I'll just use the mask and connect it to the transform, so our spec is only visible within the blood element. And now I'll just double click the noise and animate the transform. So animating the transform is like very basic, you don't have to be very precise. Just like on this frame I'll keep the translate value here, and around this frame I'll just play the noise something like this so that the noise pattern won't be same for all the frames. And if I play the element, you may see that there are some specks happening which will bring some more like wet feel on the blood. And if I take a look with the shot, we have the god rays and all that vector blur defocus, we see that speck. And now you can play with the visibility of the speck. I'll make it more brighter and also a bit reddish. Now I'm changing the color of the speck using the grade node after the noise. So there is one thing, now I have animated the transform, but the transform value is like towards the bottom. So if I take the specs, these looks like they're tracking the blood element. I'll do one more thing, I'll just take this translate value, go to the frame that I added the key here, and I'll just make it here. And on the next frame I'll just bring it like anywhere that I want, so it won't look repetitive or tracking the element. Now play the element and check. Okay, that looks good because now the spec is not similar or looks like it tracking the element, but it's too much. I can play with the visibility, I'll make it less visible. Also play with the size and the gamma. And since the blood element is too dark, I'll make it a bit brighter and reddish, so we'll read it more better. I'm just playing with the gamma and the white point, so it's more red now. And I'll also play with the spec. Now specks are visible. It looks a bit magenta. I will make it a bit more reddish. Sorry, just play with the grade of the blood. It looks magenta. I'll just reduce the blue a bit, make it a bit reddish. Sometimes you need to add multiple elements to bring the impact. So there is one more technique I'll show you, because just using the one element, the impact won't look great. So I will add the blood mist to bring some more sense of blood it, or because this is the close range, so we can see more impact on his head on the gunshot. So I'll bring one more element like blood mist. So I have this element here. This looks like a blood puff for the headshots or the gunshots. I'll just go to the color space and change the output. I'll make it rec 709, and I'm not going to use the RGB, I'm just going to use the alpha. So I'll just keep it as is and use a reformat to make it HD, 2K. And this look like this. I don't want to use this. I'm just going to use alpha. I'll use a constant and I'll make it red. I'll keep this color for the blood mist, or maybe less green, and keep it RGBA, and I'll make the value 1, so we'll see the alpha. So I have a constant now and this mist with the alpha. So use a mask node, use a merge, connect your A to the alpha and B to the constant, and make it mask and view it. So we have a blood mist color here which puffs like that. We'll use that on the frame where the headshot happening, or maybe frame 40. The speed looks good at the moment. We'll check it with the shot and merge it on the shot, and use a time offset again here. You can use it anywhere. I'll just use it after the footage, the element, and make it 38. Okay, so we need to change the position of the mist. I'll keep it here and make it small at this frame. So 40 frame will be this. I'll just give a key and I'll just make it small. Now the blood looks too reddish. I'll just use a color correction node and make it less saturated and more contrasty and less bright. So I can use this as a blood mist on his head on the impact frame, and I'll make it like on the very next frame. I'll make it big. So before that, I'll give key here for the scale, rotation, and the translate here. Make it big on the very next frame, and I'll leave it there. You don't need to track the 2D mist with his head, because once the impact happens, it will leave the initial point and the blood mist should be in the frame or in the environment. So it shouldn't be tracking the head. In fact, we did the same thing. We did not track the blood to the head because that will look unnatural if I just track the blood element. I'm not tracking that. I just kept it on the frame here and then left it in the same frame, because once the blood comes out of the head, it shouldn't track with the head. It should be free and just use the camera motion, but the blood element is just falling, so I'm not using camera motion here. Likewise, we'll do the same thing for the mist. Once the impact happens, we'll just leave it on that point. And sometimes if the shot is too subtle, you need to track the point from the shot. Like, let me show you that as well. So I have the 2D track. I use this point to track it and go to the frame and set to the frame and just use the baked camera. So I'm using this 2D track to give some motion to the element. So now if I take a look, my element is not tracking with the head, but it has a camera motion. So do not get confused. We are not doing any camera tracking. I'm just using one 2D point here to have the camera motion or the lens motion that we have in the shot, and we are applying that motion onto the 2D element, which is free in the air. So if I don't add this 2D tracker, the element will look floaty, which isn't natural. So I'm just adding some camera motion to that free element once it's out of the head. So this is the basic idea of adding blood element. I'll make it in MB. This is the basic idea of adding the blood element. I also added the muzzle flash into the shot, and if you want to learn how to add the muzzle flash in detail, you can go check, and there is one more video on my channel. I have explained the muzzle flash comping along with the assets, so check that video. I forgot to mention one more thing before I start adding blood element to this. I'll just explain that as well. Like on this frame, the impact is happening, so before that you need to add a multiply node to just turn off the element that shouldn't visible before the hit. So on frame 40 I'll make it 0 using the multiply node, and on frame 41 I'll make it 1, so the impact will be visible from this frame. And same goes for the mist as well. Like if I go and see the mist shouldn't be visible before the head blast, so I'll use a multiply node one more time here and make the value 0, and around this frame I'll make this like little less, and around frame 42 I'll make it 1 or maybe less. I'll keep it 1 and play with the values, and this should be like, it should be gone around frame 60, but the animation of that element has its own performance, which is like dissolving very fast, which is good for the shot. So we'll keep the values like this, and you don't need to animate it around this frame. You can play with the size of the puff as well, like around this frame we kept it big. You can make it even bigger, and the impact will be more better. Just check and play with the shot, and according to the need of the shot you can play. Since this is the close range, you can add more puff to get the impact. Sometimes you also need to work with, like, you can create some drops. So if I take this constant, I'll use this one more time, use the constant on the shot, and I'll just take one more merge node and make it mask, and take a paint node and connect your A to the paint and B to the constant, and draw some like small chunks coming out of the head to bring some more impact. Like if I take a merge node, brush node, and on this frame just make it like this, just give some impact like visible falling drops. So this is the technique I always use, this kind of 2D element shots, which will definitely help you to bring some, like, sell some impact. Now this looks very stubby, so you can add the same vector blur and everything and play with the values. Like on this vector blur node I'll make the values more, so it will look like this, and also play with the grade. I can make it brighter or something like that, so it depends on your need. I just made it randomly like this, and you can draw. Likewise you can just keep drawing. So it's all depends on the visibility. Sometimes blood element won't be visible, so for that you can create this kind of drips falling or extra drops. And also if I take a look at this frame, this looks very merged. So that's because the mist we have added. If I have the mist turned off here, you can see the blood element, but after the mist it looks very merged. For that you can do one more thing. I'll just take a merge node. So this is our mist and this is our blood, so I'll take the blood and merge it on the mist. So now if I see, the mist and the blood both are mixed, but the blood is more visible than before because we have added it on top of the mist. Also place the mix values of this blood that we added on top of the mist. Just animate it as per your need. On this frame I'll keep it more, and yeah, maybe like that, so that will look more natural and we can read the element more. So these are some basic techniques I use for blood element comping. Let's take this footage and use the same technique and try it with one more shot, so we'll get more idea. In this shot the impact happening around frame 47, or maybe I'll start the impact on frame 46. Turn on the auto alpha. I'll use the same blood element, and for the blood element you can use the production crate, and I have used the free element. You can also use the same thing. I'll tell you how to use the production crate for the free element. Go to the production crate and type the free and just search, and you'll get multiple elements. So you can download, you can only download up to 5 to 6 elements per day. So this has some cool blood elements you can use. They also have some smoke effect and gunshot as well. You can just search and use them for your shots, which is really good. For now I'll just use the same element. So this is the element, we already retimed it like last time. I made it 2x speed, and time offset, we'll see it on the page and we'll change that. On frame 46 we need the impact, so I'll play with the values. So first frame should be here, and use the transform node. So I'll bring the center point here and add it on the head point. Blood element not visible, I'll make it brighter using the grade node and make it reddish. I'll give this kind of color this time. And for the merge node I'll keep it on B so we don't see the extra bounding box. And very next thing is animating the transform values. So on this frame it should be like this. I'll give the values, like I'll animate the values, translate, rotation and the scale, and make the impact on the next frame. The impact should be very big, and I'll just animate a little bit. I'll give slightly motion like this and play it. It's not like this, it's not like that you play it one time and the shot looks better. Sometimes you need to do the animation multiple times and see which looks better. So in the shot, the head motion and the element are in same motion, so that's why the impact is not that readable. So I'll try something else with the shot. I'll play with the scale and the impact. I'll keep the values. I don't want to animate it very fast, so we need to read some element here. Okay, this didn't look good. I will just reset the transform values, go to the frame 46, bring the element here, and I'll give the values on any frame. First to give the keys, so this frame and this frame will be same. So what mistake I was doing is I was starting the element one frame before, so I should start it on frame 46. I'll keep it like this, and frame 45 should be off, so I'll use a multiply node. This should be off. On next frame there should be blood coming, which is the first frame of the impact, and I'll make it a bit smaller and like this. And next frame should be very big, and I'll keep it here, and so on. It will go like that. Okay, now it should look better than previous. Yes, it looks better because we have that chunks falling up and we are reading that. The mistake I was doing is I was just trying to animate the blood element like this, like every frame it's getting fast, so it looks like it was tracking the head. So this time I kept the motion very less, the transform value is very less, and the blood stays there only, and it has its own motion that dripping down, which will bring more impact. And same, we can add the translate and the mist and all, so I'll use the same noise. I'll just copy paste the noise pattern that we use for the specular and mask it to the element, so we have this kind of specks visible. And I'll use the defocus because this character is in out of focus. I'll make it 12 maybe or less, and let's play and see how that looks. This looks good. The color looks a bit odd. This looks too orange and warm. I'll make it something like that and make more reddish to make it bring some fleshy effect. And also I'll add the puff that we used for other shot. So I'll take the same setup. I'll just show you. So this puff has this kind of alpha, and we use the constant, this red color, and we just masked it, so our puff is visible like this. And I'll just remove this old transform and take a new one, just merge it on top of my shot. So the impact is happening around frame 46. Go to that frame and use a time offset to bring your mist on that frame. Okay, so I'll just use this like that, and on the very next frame it will go bigger, like a big puff, and leave it in the frame. And I'll use the multiply node. I'll just copy this multiply and paste it here, so the puff is not visible on frame 45. It will just start after that frame. And in the merge I'll make it B so we don't see the bounding box. Yes, again this puff makes everything flat, so I will use this blood element, this element on top of my puff. So take a merge node, connect your B to the blood, and A should be on the puff. So now we have puff with the blood element. So this blood element comes on top of the puff and it will look more, I mean you can read the more of the blood and along with the puff. Now the speck looks so unnatural, so I'll play with the values of the speck and make the gamma very less. And that's because with defocus as well, the defocus is a bit weird. I'll make the scale different. Sometimes you need to play with the integration, which is the important part, but I'm just showing you the basic points of adding blood elements. And you can also play with adding the wound here. Let me show you how to add the wound. So I have this wound image. I downloaded it from the Google. You can just type wound and you can find a lot of images. So I have this image. I'll take a roto and I'll just do some proper simple masking to the wound and mask it and reformat after that. So now I have this wound. I'll just merge it on my shot. So it goes here and I'll use a transform node to make the wound smaller. So the wound is here. This is mostly not visible because of the element and the motion of the head, but since we are adding, we should be technically correct. So I'm adding the wound here, animate it. This kind of shots you don't need to track it because the motion is very fast. You can simply spend less time using the transform. So on this frame the values should go here, just animate it manually, and I'll make it slightly rotated, and the element should go here and out of the frame. Next thing, you are adding the vector blur to match the motion blur on the footage, or sorry, on the wound. So I'll use the same vector blur that I used before, and maybe with the values. So you can add the manual vector blur for this kind of wound element, or there is one more technique. You can simply use this motion blur in the transform node because you have the animated values, so that will bring the motion blur on top of that 2D element you added and less shutter. Now the motion blur is happening at the start, so we'll make it on the center, so it will use the center point to create the motion blur. This is like accurate motion blur as per the motion of the transform values. And around this frame this should go off, so you can use the multiply node to turn off the element, so this frame shouldn't be visible. Next frame, there comes the bullet wound, and this gives some kind of natural feel with that elements. So match the position of the wound, like I have added it simply here, so you can just move it as per the wound shot, headshot. So I'll use a transform node before the animation, and maybe this is happening here. I'll just move it here, and this goes like that. You can also match the colors. If I take a close look, the black values looks little off, so you can match the black levels using the grade values and all, but in this shot it's not really visible. I will keep it like that and play it. Now there is one more thing I did in my shot. Since the character is too close to the camera, I wanted to add some blood drips on the lens when the impact happens, so it will give some more sense and also the feel of impact. So let me show you that as well. So I have this element. This element is like jumps on the wall. I can simply use this element directly, or you can use the constant and create the same colors, but since this has a good nice red color in it, I will use a pre-mult, and this comes like this. I'll use a reformat after that. So this should be on the lens when the hit happens. I'll use a merge node. We should connect to the shot, and around frame 46 the impact is happening here, so I'll bring it here on the time offset, make it 40, play with the animation. So on this frame this should be on 41st, and on the very next frame it should be on the lens. I'll keep it like this and I'll make it bigger. So choose the location, like I want to use it somewhere around here, and in the transform I'll make it B. Now I don't want to see the screen and everything, so I'll just simply use a saturation node and make it like desat, and also add some colors like that, and I'll make it a bit darker. And since this is on the lens, this should be very defocused. I'll use extra values like defocused here, and it will be on the lens, and I'll keep it here, maybe make it a bit darker and more reddish, and play it and check. Okay, this looks like it's blending with the shot, which is not visible. Maybe that's because we are adding it in this corner, and this corner is not reading well. I'll change the location of this drip on the lens. I'll make it even bigger. I'll keep it somewhere around here and check it. Yeah, something like that should be fine, but this drip's coming before the blood shot happening. So what I will do is I'll just use the time offset again, and I'll remove these values, make it 41 one more time. Okay, 42 fine. So yeah, this frame it should come and stick to the wall or the lens, something like that. You can also play with the position, or you can use multiple element. If I take a merge node, take this transform, merge it like one more time, rotate it like multiple times, and use it here as well. So even that is fine. And I'll also make the defocus values bit extra, maybe 16, so it will be more out of focus. And then use, when you do the defocus, it looks very thin, so you can take one more merge node, connect the merge and make it like double, so that it will look thicker with the defocus. Yep, it looks like it's coming from here, so you can just clean it up. Now I don't want to read it here. I'll simply go to this merge node and I'll turn off the mix values, so it's only visible from here like that. So it will bring some impact that blood is coming on the lens and hitting the lens. So these are the basic idea of adding the blood elements. You can use the same technique to create the blood effect with the sword shot or the knife stabbing shots. So fundamentals are the same. I hope you guys have learned something new today, and if you have any confusion, please let me know in the comments and I'm happy to answer them all. And I'm also providing the work file, assets and elements that I'm used for the shot, so you can also practice your own shot. And happy learning. See you in the next video. Thank you.